Welcome to Run the Play. I'm David Hampian. Every episode, we break down the real plays behind the world's biggest brands, boldest ideas, things that worked, things that didn't, what you can learn to run on your own. And today's play starts like this.
I'm conflicted within myself because on one hand, I want to tell whoever is listening, just go ahead and do it. Like, don't wait for the perfect opportunity. For most people, it will never materialize if you're not willing to do the leap of faith on yourself.
Today's guest is somebody who actually ran a play that most people just daydream about. Shachar Aylon spent years building brands, leading creative for some of the world's biggest names: Amazon, Lyft, 72 and Sunny, working on culture-defining moments like Obama's national tree lighting, Google voice search, Gaga's Super Bowl halftime show, and more. But then he did something most people don't. He bet on himself. Shachar, you walked away from the security of big titles, big budgets, to build from scratch, and that leap has gifted all of us Dawn, Shachar's creative agency that's helping brands build their identities and, I'll say, put some soul into their campaigns through storytelling, strategy, bold creative that converts. That's what you do, Shachar. But in this episode, we're not really talking about that, are we? We are breaking down the leap and what it really takes, how to know you're ready to start your own business, the questions you might want to ask yourself. Hey, maybe we'll talk through some early mistakes and those mindset shifts that separate dreamers from doers. Shachar, welcome to Run the Play.
Hey, thank you for having me. Great to be here.
So I'm excited for this one, man, because, when we first got connected, it was through a mutual friend who knew that I wanted to start my business and said, hey, you should look at what Shachar's doing. And kind of in that point in time, I was, what's the quote? Great artists steal. I'm like on the internet, like looking around, like, how are other people doing this, right? How are other consultancies, agencies positioning themselves? I'm looking at everybody's websites and social. Some were too much brand, not enough substance, and some were like all substance. And then I got to Dawn, and I was like, this dude gets it, right? You have your business models, you have your services, your tiers, but you were building a brand. So my question is, how much of what I saw that day and what I see today with Dawn, like how much of that was in your head when you decided to do this?
The idea of starting my own agency has been there all along, like doing something of my own. How it came to life, how I ultimately shaped Dawn, I never could have imagined that. Like many creatives, my gut or my instinct was to immediately jump into execution. Like I just wanted to express what Dawn is. And one of the best pieces of advice I got early on was to create my own brief, like understand who am I talking to? What am I trying to accomplish with this business? Basically, the strategy to the creative. It was challenging me to take everything I know about doing campaigns, brand building, working with clients, and apply it to myself. And maybe that's the hardest thing, right? Like we for a lot of people who have been in the industry, we've made our career by giving advice to others. And it gets a little harder when you need to apply that advice to yourself. So the reason Dawn now shows up as a brand and we're so crystal clear on who we're talking to, how we want to show up, is first of all, a way for me to filter out people who might not be a good fit. But also on top of it, it helps me understand who am I servicing, who am I helping, who needs my help, and how do I talk to them? How do I position myself? When I looked at the history of my career, of what I wanted to build for Dawn, it's clear that my experience is in the tech world. I've worked with all these different brands that you mentioned, whether it's Lyft, Google, Intel, Amazon, the bigs, the smalls, and I felt like there was an opportunity there. I took the time to chat with marketing leaders, CMOs, even people who started their own agencies to hear about their experience, to hear about what is actually the white space there, what's the gap, how should I position myself? And that informed what Dawn is today.
Yeah, I did the same thing, man. Like the notion of like turning the camera around and being like, okay, now I have to do what I've been doing for other people on myself,
Yeah.
it's really different. So did you make the brief, whatever you kind of consider that moment where you made like the, standard traditional brief for Don, was that before you technically made the leap? And I guess like, let's qualify what I mean, like quit your job. Did you have that brief going, or did you make the leap and then create the brief? And the reason I ask is because I think a lot of listeners who want to start their own business, one question they have is like, how prepared do I need to be before I do that thing? So in your case, which was it?
It's interesting because I'm conflicted within myself, because on one hand, I want to tell whoever is listening, just go ahead and do it. Like, don't wait for the perfect opportunity. For most people, it will never materialize if you're not willing to do the leap of faith on yourself. So waiting for the stars to align, to find that perfect partner, to find that perfect client, to have the perfect website, it won't happen. Like, you need to be okay with just going out there with like version 0.5 and seeing how the world reacts to it and adjust from there and learn and build and grow. And just by doing that, you'll already learn a lot and you'll evolve from that. So a part of me wants to say, like, forget about planning, forget about all this kind of meticulous work that you put in place, and just do it. Another part of me is very glad and happy that I did all that legwork ahead of time. And maybe that's the reason we're so sharp on who we are, who we service, and how we show up in the world. So in my case, I knew for a while that I'll eventually one day start my own company, my own agency. So I just took up any opportunity I could. It was, whether it's just coffee chats or just reaching out to new people, networking, I put my thinking cap on and just wanted to learn from others about their experience, how they're experiencing working with other agencies, with no specific like timeline or agenda. I just knew that it will inform eventually what I was building. So for 2 or 3 years ahead of building Dawn, so Dawn is 2 years old, started it in January 2024, sorry. But 2 or 3 years even ahead of that, I just took up any opportunity I could. I think it's actually amazing to learn that so many people want to see you succeed. Like, we have this notion sometimes that like, well, like, I don't want to reach out to that person. It looks like I'm begging for a job or opportunity or something like that. But when I showed up in a genuine way and authentically kind of just wanted help and advice and soak up wisdom, people opened up, and I heard much more yeses from people than no. So maybe that's an encouragement for anyone who's listening to take that step and have a conversation, whether it's going to lead to like some magnificent outcome or not. Like, it will contribute to whatever you're building.
Yeah, asking people for stuff is hard, like in any kind of context, right? How do you decide who your allies are, right? Because there's like, one of the things that I've struggled with is there's people that I know that are my allies, and I don't want to turn this into business, right? But they might be able to help me. And then there's folks that are my allies that probably don't have the connections or in the industry that I need, but maybe they could still help me. Like, what was that process like for you? How did you decide these are my people? These are the people that are going to help me.
Yeah, I had to find my people. Like, I think what I experienced right off the bat, starting my own agency, and maybe you can relate. I'm curious to hear if it's similar to you. It felt very lonely at first. Like, of course, I had my own network of people and people were rooting for me. So like, whenever I posted about Dawn, like, I got all the likes and comments and stuff like that.
Right.
But at the end of the day, when I was sitting and trying to get new business, trying to figure out what's right for Dawn, there was no other person to really look to and get that piece of advice or that connection that I really needed. Again, people were helpful. People like lend their attention and advice, but at the end of the day, it comes down to me. So I figured if I'm experiencing it, many other people must be experiencing it too. So can we create a shared experience among these early stage founders of agencies? People are still figuring it out that might feel also lonely. And can we create a little forum or a club where we share advice? We get to vent sometimes about experiences that we had, or learn from others, from their mistakes or from their successes and wins. And that's been super gratifying. So I had to do the legwork. I had to go out there and find like-minded people who are at exactly the same stage I'm at. I know many creative directors. I know many clients, but I didn't know a lot of people who were starting the same thing that I'm starting. So that was a great experience. I'm curious, like, what does it look like for you?
Yeah, I'm in that kind of lonely phase right now, right? I'm 3 months in, similar to you, like first month, couple months is a lot of cheerleading,
Mm.
right? People are excited for me. And then they go back to their lives, right? They're busy, they go back to their jobs. And it's not the news anymore, right? Obviously, my close circle of friends and family, they're still there asking me how I'm doing, how things are going, how they can help. But like, I guess the network of people excited for outwardly excited for you gets smaller. And I think that's one of the things that for me I've like found, I think, solace in is it's not the size of your network, it's how deep the
Mhm.
connections that you have go, right? And kind of the notion of like finding the people who are fans of me as a person, not Field Vision or my work, but they like love me, right? And those are the people I think that I hitch my wagon to, and not even to get anything out of it, but I just kind of have this belief that, yeah, that connection will lead to good things now or later at some point, and I will return the favor for them. And it feels organic, it feels natural. And that shows up in like a lot of different ways, right? For example, kind of your point early on when I would post content, talk about Field Vision, I'm launching this thing, like lots of likes, comments, fanfare, not a lot of traction to actual business. Now, 3 months later, I might post something that gets 8 likes, but one of those people calls me and is like, I think you can help me, or I
Mm.
think you can help this person at my business. Can you talk to them? So again, I say that to people because like I think we have this notion of loneliness being like the amount of people or fanfare around us. And I've kind of tried to flip it of not volume, depth of relationship.
Yeah, I really dig what you're saying. And I can relate to it as well. I think I realized that it's on me to remind people that I'm here. Like, people are excited for yourself and they want to see you succeed, but like you said, they go back to their day job, and it's on me now as the founder of this company to keep it top of mind. So when the actual project that might be a good fit for Don comes along, they're actually thinking about me. So it puts me in an uncomfortable place where I need to show up on LinkedIn. I need to show up. It's my face. Like, the company is me and I am the company. My name is on it. So I need to remind people that I'm here. And that means posting content, recording podcasts, like making my own content, posting on YouTube. All of these things are not necessarily natural to me. I need to get
Yeah,
used to the idea of being in front of the camera, but it's an excellent way to remind people why you're here. And I think, to your point, I think people are waiting sometimes to see that you're serious about what you're building.
for sure.
Like,
Yeah.
so many people announce on LinkedIn or on these different forums, like, I'm going to do this venture or I'm going to start this project. And if you're consistent about it, and if you show up, like you said, like month 3, you're still beating that drum and you're still churning out content and you're still talking about Field Vision, people are starting to think about it a little differently. They're
Mhm.
they're starting to see like, oh, this person is serious about what he's building. He's still figuring it out, but this is not going away. This is something that maybe is worth my time to invest as well because they're committed to it 100%.
That's a really good point. Like, we are asking people to trust us with our work in exchange for money. And I think there's a certain component of that that's like, all right, well, is this person going to be consistent? Right? Are they about what they say? Or is this just some, you know, stepping stone onto the next thing? And you mentioned another thing that I wanted to dive into. This is something you have advised clients or brands on a million times. Like, you got to continue to drive awareness. Just stick with it. Stay out there. You got to keep posting, or got to write your campaign strategy, and you just got to see it through. Stay top of mind. And then when you have to do it for yourself, you're like, oh shit. How have you been able to get over that?
First of all, I'm genuinely excited about what I'm building, and I feel very positive about it. So that helps me, like, no matter if, like, I get 8 likes, like you mentioned, or like 200 likes, or whether I feel like I'm at this moment succeeding with my business or not. I'm excited about what I'm building. So that gives me that unwavering vision to like just be consistent and continue talking about Dawn. It's hard for me to imagine any other possibility. Now, like 2 years into Dawn, being my own boss, being able to shape projects the way I see fit and experiment with new things. We just introduced a few new models of working with freelancers to get them more invested in projects. We've introduced a few new ways of working with clients. Some of them are going to stick, some of them are not, but being able to just try these new approaches is super rewarding for me. And to respond to what you were saying, I completely agree on consistency. I feel like that's the magic trick for many brands. A lot of these founders come to me and say like, hey, like no matter what message, what unique message I come up with, the competitors copy and paste it. Like if I found something unique to say about my product, the moat is so low,
Yeah.
they can just copy the feature, talk about it in the same way, and suddenly everything is ubiquitous.
Oh, yeah.
What I tell them is consistency is the magic trick. Like all these competitors are chasing after what's next and changing their main message and their main positioning according to what's showing up in the market. The best thing you can do is actually stay consistent and just say that same thing over and over until people are just like it's lasered into their brains.
Let's talk about consistency. I had a conversation early on when I decided to make my move and start Field Vision, and had a former colleague and friend say, yeah, like, dude, everybody's doing this now, right? Well, I'm seeing everybody on LinkedIn go start a consultancy, start an agency. And some of that makes sense, right? Like we have the technology and tools to be able to do that now. And we're kind of at the age where people have worked long enough, right? They know a little bit about what they're doing. They got some connections. So it makes sense. But he asked me like, so why do you think you're going to be able to do it? Like, what's going to make you different? And what I said to him was, well, I'm not going to be the biggest or the baddest agency, but I'm going to do this the longest. Like I will outlast everybody else who wants to start doing this. That's my differentiator personally, is like, I'm just going to keep going. And so this notion of consistency, when you're starting your business and you're thinking about the million things you could do with your business, you could post content on social, you can reach out to people one-on-one, you can run ads, right? All this kind of marketing and BD tactics, and being consistent in those there's something to be said. How did you decide where to focus and what to stay consistent on? Or did you, pick a few different lanes?
Yeah. Let's be real. Like there are things that I thought I would be consistent forever. Like and I have learned throughout my journey that actually that doesn't stick, or maybe I need to change how I'm talking about it. But I think the big idea of Dawn, like the value we bring to companies, tech companies in particular, the idea that we know exactly who we serve, that will never change. And my approach to work, like my lens at this point in my career, I've learned that there's no one way to do things. What I've realized is I have my own unique perspective on the work. I have my own way to get to the answer. And that's going to stay consistent because that's what makes my way of thinking and making unique. How we get there might change. For example, through my conversations with all these marketing leaders and CMOs and even agency founders, I saw a gap in the market. All these tech companies are moving so fast. They obviously need help, whether it's design, copywriting, strategy, campaigns, branding. There are so many things that are going on in their world. They acknowledge they can't all build it in-house. On the flip side, they're moving so fast. What was right 2 weeks ago might not be right today. So the kind of old school way of SOW, MSA, like kind of get a contract going, scope out the deliverables, timeline, and off to the races, might not work for every client. They need that kind of ongoing support. And that's what I heard from all these marketing leaders. Like by the time I sign up, especially if you're like Amazon or something that like it takes you a month to get a vendor in the door. And by then the project has inherently changed. And on the flip side, when I was talking to agency founders, they were like scratching their heads, like, there's no more agency of record. I don't know how to kind of consistently get paid by a client. We're doing project-based work. So I'm basically a souped up salesperson. Like I'm always hunting the next project because our engagements are so limited or kind of sandbox in a way. So I didn't invent the subscription model, but we introduced it in a kind of high creative caliber way where clients get to work with us in a flexible kind of retainer-like engagement where they can pause or cancel at any point. They don't need to worry about overages. We can shift our attention to different projects. And that is the outcome of our perspective on what we want to do with clients, how we want to service them, our process. That might change. So like consistency is great in terms of what we're trying to accomplish. How we do it might evolve. So right now, as I'm looking at kind of year 3 for Dawn, does it still make sense to do these subscriptions? Do we want to change that model? We've gathered enough information to start evaluating what's working and what's not. So yeah, to answer your question, know thyself, right? Like know your DNA, know what makes you unique, what's valuable, and then experiment with some stuff that maybe will go away.
Yeah. I think what I hear you saying is like consistency on the inputs is almost more important than the outputs. Meaning, if I know who I am, what I'm offering, who I am offering that for, and how I should be offering it to that person, it kind of doesn't matter what your tactic is. Like, those are the aspects that are the most important to keep consistent. It's not like there's not a silver bullet being like post 5 times a day on social media, right?
Yeah.
Or send 100 emails to people you know every day. Like, none of that will matter if the inputs aren't consistent. So develop your inputs and obviously adjust them over time as you learn and develop your brand and et cetera. But like, those should stay relatively consistent and then go out there and experiment, right?
Yeah. Like, so many times we have this idea of what the outcome will be or like how people will react to something. Like sometimes I'll record a video and I think it will break the internet or whatever. And
Oh, I've been there.
yeah, and ends up just like with a few reactions and stuff. And that's fine. Like I learned from that experience, like putting it out there, knowing what works, what doesn't. Yeah. Like as long as you're clear on who you are, what you're doing, who you're servicing, I would encourage like if there was a silver bullet, everybody would do it and then you're not breaking through. So yeah, like just try new things.
What would you say has been like, kind of on that note, what would you say has been the 1 or 2 things that are just way different than what you thought
Mm.
it would be from this experience?
I like reality versus expectations on Dawn. Yeah. I was so clear. Like when I started Dawn, I was so clear on the types of projects that excited me, that I
Mm,
have under my belt, that I thought people will come to me for. And when I put out my name or Dawn out there, suddenly people reached out with all kinds of shapes and sizes of requests and projects that I could have never anticipated. Now,
mm,
part of it is really exciting because it challenges you to think like, wait, can I take it on? Is this something that we can potentially do? Could that lead to other outcomes that I never anticipated before? And the other hand, it kind of challenges those like that consistent belief of yourself, right? Like if I've started this agency because I know I can provide value in brand building or campaign work, is it a distraction to now like start doing this other thing on the side? Is it moving me away from that outcome that I wanted to create for myself? So, for example, I haven't spent a lot of my career building websites, right? And now a lot of brands' main part of their expression of the brand is the homepage, the
yeah.
website. How you get introduced to that company is many times the .com or whatever. Now it's all .ai. And that was a challenge for me. Like that, I never imagined taking on website projects or consulting gigs for strategy. Very rewarding, but where it challenged me is to sometimes say no. Like, and that's really hard as you're building something that, especially early on, you just want to say yes to everything, especially because it's hard to imagine like saying no to a paycheck. Like someone wants to give you money, wants them to work on a project, and saying no feels counterintuitive to building a business, right? Like a business is here to make money. But what I've been learning is that actually saying no defines us just as much as saying yes to things. Knowing what you're good at, knowing where you can provide the most value actually frees you up to focus on that and make a name for yourself in that rather than kind of go on these side quests.
How did you learn that? Is there a time where You didn't say no, and looking back, you're like, I should have.
Yeah, I mean, in hindsight, there are definitely projects that I have said would have said no to, whether it's low pay or
Mm,
just misaligned on the process um, or just kind of what they were looking for and the work. I think what helped me is to create my own process and create and make sure that it's a repeatable process, meaning that now I have an established way to approach projects and a very established way we service clients. So because it's so repeatable, we have almost like for every step in the process. So just to give you a glimpse, we have 3 phases of every project. So if a client comes for a campaign launch or a brand identity, we break it down to 3 phases. The first one is we call it find the magic, which is all about strategic positioning, finding their tone of voice, messaging, basically creating the building blocks, maybe some kind of early competitive landscape, brand identity, and so on. And the second one is creating the expression of that. So how do we bring it to life? What are those building blocks that we can play with? And lastly, it's time to make. We'll deliver the executions. We'll think about how we show up in every channel and so on. That kind of like that in itself, just knowing that those are the 3 phases that we have
yeah.
eliminates a lot of engagements, because if someone comes to me and says, "Hey, I just need a banner for this campaign that is launching," or "I need like someone to resize 50 billboards," through
Yeah.
request that came through, it's very tempting because it might lead to other engagements
Yeah.
with the company. It might expand in scope, but it just doesn't fit within the process. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
involve strategy upfront. It doesn't involve creating those building blocks for the brand. So it makes it easier for me to say no when my gut says like yes, say yes to the opportunity, say yes. Like this is how I became successful in my career when I was full-time. Basically just saying yes to everything that came my way, like seeing the opportunity in everything.
Yeah.
So it feels almost counterintuitive.
My misconception of this process coming into it was that it's about the brand and the money. Like those were the two criteria points that I would have to think through for each time a client came to me. It's like, is it a cool brand that I can put the logo on my website and how much are they paying me? And it's actually a lot more than that, right? Which is, I think, what you're kind of alluding to here. Like I've had conversations with great brands and the money looked good, but the project was not right for me or something I would be able to deliver on. And then at that point, cool, I'm making money right now, but I'm never going to make money with them again, right? Because I'm stretching into something I probably shouldn't do.
Exactly.
Or their structure's not right. Like their leadership's not seeing the proposal the same way. I just know there's not going to be a successful end of the road there. Like, what are all the various criteria points you're thinking about when someone comes to you?
Mm, mm. Yeah. So I actually have like, I did a project with a business consultant and we created like a qualifying questionnaire
Okay,
beyond
like a scorecard almost.
yes, exactly. So we have a set of questions to help us determine if this is a good match for Don. Besides the type of work that we want to do, more like, is this a good partner for Don? Will we be able to produce good work
Yeah.
together? Is this collaborative? Are they clear on what they're trying to make? So often we show up in front of a client that has idea of what they want, but they're not sure how to get there and or what they're actually asking for. Can we help guide them through that discussion to what they actually need? Are they seeing us as professionals, like advisors in the field, or just working hands that they just need to kind of fill up some bandwidth?
Yeah.
A lot of these questions help us evaluate, is this the right partnership? Also, the way we approach call, like similar to how we're having this conversation, there's a stage at first to just make sure that there's chemistry, that we're aligned in our point of view and how we're approaching work, how we think about the work. And it's okay. Like I said earlier on, there's no one way to do things. So it's totally fine if a company or a client has a different idea of a project. But I've been on those projects where I had to change how I approach it to kind of match the client, and it never ends well.
Yeah. Yeah.
How
Yeah. I
about
mean,
yourself?
you-
Tell me about what's starting to emerge for field vision. Like, what are those types of projects that, let me ask it differently. Like, what's a red flag for you on a project?
think about that. So I have like one that comes to mind right now, but I'm like,
Yeah. You don't want
it
to
might,
air
it
it
might
out.
still be business for me in like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think about how I say this. Maybe I'm just so attuned to what Amazon was like, right? Hasn't been long enough. But the red flag for me is lack of feedback. What I think then is either you don't really know what you need or you're not paying attention. And what's going to potentially happen here, and has happened at businesses I've worked at, is we get to the end state and it all of a sudden the goalpost shifted. I didn't get enough out of you to know where you stood, what you really needed, and what good was going to look like. And so what I deliver at the end of the day, who knows?
Yeah.
That's the red flag to me, is like, I want engagement. I don't, in my previous life at a business, if I brought a leadership, a document or a presentation, sometimes if they had no feedback, I was like, great, let's get the hell out of here. Right? That was great. Now I want the client to be engaged and have a point of view early, because if they do, I'm learning a couple things. I'm learning what it's going to be like to work with this person. Secondly, I'm getting guardrails on what they want me to do and what I'm ultimately going to deliver. If they're not giving any feedback, then I'm like, this seems risky.
Yeah. I think and maybe that's another good highlight for the things that I've realized as I was starting the company. A lot of times it's just me showing up on the call. Like there's the name Don, but as I'm building the company, it's a lot of freelancers, contractors, and ultimately when there's a pitch or a proposal or something, it's just me on the call. And that creates almost the illusion or perception that you're a consultant or a freelancer or something. So
Tough.
kind of to your point, it's easy to be like, let's just get them in the door and we'll figure it out later, because that's what you do with a freelancer consultant. Like, okay, like you'll bill me hourly or whatever, and I'll get what I need. And if we need to pivot or change, great. And that's a distinction that took me a while to like, no, I'm a company. We have a process. We have a way of working. We have these systems in place. And that's a way to also protect us from the perception that as if I'm your freelance, like souped up freelancer or
Yeah.
consultant or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, you have a lot of what it sounds like kind of checks and balances in your process that help you really understand, is this a good project? Is this building Dawn and what Dawn stands for? Right. A number of things. And I think kind of to tie it all together, it kind of goes back to when I first stumbled upon your website. It was like, oh, there's the creative piece and the very process oriented piece. Like you could just tell from scrolling your website, you think that way. What are the other non-negotiables? Like if you were looking at people out there that want to start a business, what are the traits that they need to have?
I mean, you definitely need to know how to take an L. That's for sure.
Yeah. E to L. You got to eat an L, man.
Yeah. I mean, I think at a certain point in our career, we especially in the creative field, like we learn how to separate our self idea of self
Hmm.
from the work we do, right? Like that there's a separation. Like if someone didn't like my idea, if someone didn't like that thing that I produced for them, that's fine. It's not necessarily a direct reflection on my abilities or expertise.
Yeah, that's a hard thing to learn. But yeah.
It's hard, like maybe 10 years in, 15 years in, you learn how to kind of make that separation. Starting your own business, suddenly that barrier explodes because it's your name on the door. People came to you for that. So you feel it. Like when you win, when you get a new contract, when you get a new client, when they're impressed with the work, it feels so satisfying. Even if it was a small project, it feels personal in a way that kind of reminds me like I was a junior back then. I'm like, but it also means that a lot of times someone won't want your service, or you lost out to a different agency, or maybe you had a review and you completely bombed. And that feels devastating. Like it,
Mm.
because you just take it so personally. It's the thing that you've built. So I think people who are building their own company, their own agency, need to be comfortable with, like, just first of all, just putting their name out there, like reaching out and being comfortable with asking something. Hey, I want to have a call with you. I want to pitch you my business. I'm comfortable creating content on LinkedIn, even if it feels a little cringy for me, whatever. Like, and then on top of that, also just showing up and knowing that not everything will be a success. That sometimes you'll need to take it as a learning experience and grow from there. And a lot of those checks and balances happen because I failed at some point.
L. Lessons, not losses, but
Yeah.
sometimes losses. Sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't quantify it, but I'd say from like out of 10 calls I'll take from like potential clients, only one or two will become an actual project or a client. I
Totally.
don't know what
Oh,
the
yeah.
success rate is for other agencies, but it still means that like on 8 calls, you didn't get the business and you
Yeah.
need to be comfortable with that.
It's about the same for me.
Hmm.
Yeah. And that kind of goes to just show you the amount of repetition and consistency. We're saying that word over and over because it's so true. Like, you just have to keep having those calls, right?
Mhm.
And of course, like, yeah, it would be great if I got to a point, and hopefully in the future I do, where, the close rate is higher, right? I mean, that's one way to get more business that's not volume based, is just to close more. But I'm not at that point yet, right? So just calls, 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 proposals, 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 but then pause and try to learn, how do you build into your process? And you said it earlier, we're always just trying to look for that next deal, even when you're working on a project. How do you bake in the time to stop and go, what have I learned about what
Mm.
I'm doing right now? Am I getting better at it?
Yeah, that's another thing that you need to be comfortable with. Not only the self reflection, but like coming, even if let's imagine a project didn't go well, being able to come to the client at the end of the project and say, I want to learn from this experience. Let's do a debrief. Let's talk about it. Let's have that uncomfortable conversation.
Mm,
Luckily or fortunately, I've had many successful projects or positive projects. It still is a little kind of uncomfortable to come out after a project that went well and tell the client, I want to hear how we could improve ourselves. Or
do you
like,
do that for every engagement? Kind of have like a little, ask the client for a little debrief?
yeah. So we do a both internal one because
Yep.
we work with so many freelancers. It's so easy to just kind of like, okay, done. Like, bye everyone. Like, we want a moment to kind of give closure to everyone. Like, hey, we finished the project. Let's celebrate. Let's think back on what we did well. How can we improve? And I learn a lot from that. And we also do it with clients. So we'll kind of spend half an hour or an hour. Usually, I'll also bake in a request for like a testimonial, social proof, always helpful to get
Definitely.
like the
Yeah.
reactions from the clients. Yeah, and every time I ask it, like there's a part of me that just kind of wants to skip that part. It's uncomfortable for me. I don't want to be in that space. I don't want to hear what didn't go well when it feels like everything is so positive. But I've always learned something valuable from those conversations. And maybe that's a lesson on its own. Like run towards those uncomfortable feelings.
Yeah, get used to having a lot more performance reviews than you had in a corporate environment. And as you said, I feel the same way. It's uncomfortable. Who likes that? Nobody does. But if you don't take the time to sometimes hear those hard truths, I don't know, you're not really are you doing yourself justice in trying to improve? I don't know. I don't know.
And on top of it, I'll just say it's another sign that you're serious about the business. If you
Mm,
come to a partner of yours and say, I want to be better for our next project together, I guarantee that the likelihood of them engaging with you again will be much higher. Unless, again, you miss the mark completely.
yeah.
There's still a partner that is willing to learn, willing to grow, and wants to do better work for them.
Yep.
So it just, they'll see it. You're working with smart people, they notice these behaviors and they're looking for those types of partnerships.
Yes, I mean, I think that's a great just tip for people doing this work, agency, consultant, whatever it is. Use your customers as a way to grow and improve, not just as a way towards money, a
Mm.
quick check. It can bolster you in a lot of different ways. So that's something you should do when you're out there looking around at all the people such as myself trying to do this work. Is there something that you see that makes you cringe, or something where you're like, "Oh, that's a mistake. I wish I could tell that person don't do that."
I have to say, like, I've been humbled, like through like starting my own business. Um, it's been humbling to see how much energy, how much willingness to put yourself out there to experiment, to try and succeed or sometimes fail. So when I see other agencies, I just have that respect for them. Sure, I might have a perspective on like, oh, I wouldn't start my website like this or that, but they're trying to solve for something different, or their experience has informed where they landed so far. If anything, I have more respect for all these people who are starting their agencies and saying, you know what, it's not perfect, but this will do. Like this is where I'm at right now. More often than not, I just see what other people are doing and I'm like, damn, I wish I had this, or like, I wish I could do something of that sort, or like, oh, wow, how did they nail that client? Like, how did they get that client? So yeah, I mean, I have a lot of appreciation for people who started their own thing.
Starting a business, I think, has been one of the more humbling experiences of my life too. And it really does check you on how strongly you hold your point of view. And that's like a good lesson for life, man. Like,
Yeah.
hey, that's not how I would do it, but okay, if that's what works for you, who cares? I've really had to that is something I think all the time from starting a business. That's something I just could translate to my life.
Yeah. What's right for us might not be right for another person. And there's so many clients out there. There's something for everyone. So, and I think maybe that's what we can take away, like being sharper and like creating those filters of who you're servicing, who you're a good match for will just help you get more of the type of work you want to get.
It's a process. So we always wrap up, run the play with a question segment we call the hill, because anybody that comes on this show is marketer, creative, or somebody starting their own business. We got opinions, right? We know how to fight for our ideas. Maybe we even like a little bit of debate. So we end with a question. It doesn't even have to be related to this conversation or the business, but what's the one hill you would die on?
I think our jobs in marketing and brand have overcomplicated themselves. Like I completely understand the need and want to be very informed and have all these processes, matrices, data points.
Yeah.
Like if I think about how these brand houses that people build and presentations with all these charts and ICPs and KPIs, and all of these are good methods or good ways of presenting conclusions. But if they end up just sitting in the cloud gathering dust, it was just a theory. It wasn't an application or a practice of it. And maybe this is me carrying over a lot of my experiences from full time that now I'm trying to alleviate through Dawn, where because of all this information, like we kind of don't get to the heart of it. We don't get to the person that we're trying to talk to at the end of it. I think the hill I'm willing to die on is actually dumbing down what we're doing. Like simplifying, dumbing down, making sure that anyone can just pick up a slide and understand it and it will stick in their brain. Like that they take it away and apply it to the work. The chart with like 20 points and 50 principles, like it looks great and will get everybody nodding in the meeting. But what is it accomplishing beyond that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if I had to summarize some of the gems that you've dropped on this show into just key themes, simplicity. From a creative standpoint too, creative simplicity, there's power in that, but simplicity in your process, simplicity in your frameworks, your mental models, consistency in your approach, flexibility to change, I think, but balancing that with have a point of view, right? These are kind of some of the, I don't know, strands of DNA that somebody should keep in mind when they're trying to get it with their own Dawn, start their own Dawn, right?
And commit to, like, if you're building something, commit to it fully. Don't have like one foot in the door, one foot out the door. If you're trying to build something successful and long lasting, put your whole heart into it.
Shachar, I love this conversation, man. And you've been a huge beacon of light for me starting my own business and never gatekeep information. You truly just want to help. And that's why I had you on the show. And that's a rare thing to find, especially in a category where people could consider themselves competitors. Just really appreciate you coming here and sharing some of what you've been able to share with me over the past few months with more people. I know it's going to help a lot of people and we want to help you. So where can people find you? Tell us what's coming up. Where can they find you and Dawn online?
Yeah, so the website is dawn.la. The best way to keep in touch with me is through my newsletter, actually. It's called 3 Curious Things. It's email I send every Friday with 3 curious things that I came across on the internet, from culture, from advertising, branding, art, or anything in between. Very lighthearted, 5 minutes of reading every two, and I promise you'll come across some really fun and weird stuff.
It's a fun read. I feel like it keeps me close to marketing culture that's outside of just my direct lane. Yeah, I love
Yeah.
3 Curious Things. We'll drop that in the description. We'll have links to everything Shachar just mentioned so you guys can dive deeper. Definitely join the newsletter list. Shachar, thank you so much for joining us. And for anyone out there listening, like if you've ever thought about starting your own business, drop us a note. We'd love to hear your story.
Thanks for having me.